Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Lesbian Supper Club podcast. You are joined today by Scarlett. I'm a little bit ashamed to say that actually because I do acknowledge I've not been visible for the last 3 months. So sorry about me. Have not really got much excuse for that other than I've just prioritised other things, rightfully or wrongly so. Been busy. I've been really ill, suffering with a neurological condition. So that's partially why I haven't been around, because I have been in severe pain 24 hours a day, which is now under control. Thank you, St. Mary's Hospital. But I am back today, and I'm back today bringing you a guest and conversation which I'm really excited to kind of dissect and go over, and I think it will be a conversation that you will all probably be able to relate to in one way or another, find super useful and hopefully super insightful. So I want to introduce to you today Jazz. Hello Jazz, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We gave Jazz, I think, less than 24 hours notice to appear today, which is very on brand. So thank you for taking the time. We're really excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. This is a really cozy sofa.
Yeah, it is, right? It's first time for me as well. By the way, guys, want to say as well, we are now officially recording in the Spotify studios. We've done it. We've made it. Thank you, Spotify. So life is going to be a lot easier for us. Life's going to be a lot more interesting for you because we're going to be around a lot more. We are going to be a lot more visual and a lot more visible and a lot more consistent because we've finally got there. We've locked it down and we're ready to go. So yes, first person in the podcast studio other than Shura last year on a consistent basis. So please do introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of insight into who is Jazz, what do you do, and let us know whatever you want us to know.
Okay, I'm Jazz. I am 24. I came out last year in January now. So yeah, it's gone by really, really fast. I am on a show called Made in Chelsea and I also run.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to drop the routine at the end actually, because I think that's going to be a big topic.
I will, for sure. So I kind of do little bits and bobs here and there when I'm not filming, but essentially I film 6 months out of the year.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty
And
intense.
how long have you been on Made in Chelsea?
Done it for, I think, over 2 years now.
Wow,
2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that initially. How did Made in Chelsea come about for you? What is that journey like on a day-to-day, and what has that journey been like over the last 2 years for you?
So after uni, I've always wanted to be a professional tennis player.
Okay.
I played at an academy growing up.
Amazing.
And then I played at uni, and straight out of uni, my mum was like, right, you got to get a job straight away. Tennis didn't work out. I really wanted to become a tennis coach, but my mum essentially was like, you have to crack down and get a job ASAP. And so I was like, fuck, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I want a tennis coach. I want to explore a little bit, but essentially my mum is an almond mum. She's very strict. She wants me to get a 9 to 5 and whatever, but I wasn't sure. So me and Chelsea approached me and I was like, technically that's a job. Like, technically.
I think it's a pretty bloody hard one as well, actually.
But I was like, on
Brain
paper,
surgeon is nothing to that as far as I'm concerned.
I was like, on paper, technically all I wanted to do was just tell my mum that I've got a job so that I can figure it out, essentially. So I was like, I'll just join Made in Chelsea for the plot while I figure out what I want to do. Because technically it's paid and whatever. So I did that and I said, Mum, I've got a job. And she...
Not that job, actually, Jazz, but...
Yeah, literally. She was like, this is not what I meant. But I was like, I'll just do it for a little bit while I figure out what I want to do, and I'm still here.
Okay. So overall, it's been a positive experience for you?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Overall, yes. Obviously, it's hard at times.
Yeah.
It's challenging. It is not for the weak, I'll tell you that. But I do have fun.
And would you say over time of being on the show, in terms of having that public element of the show, and it is a reality TV show ultimately, so the whole purpose of it is to have storylines filmed and put out there which are interesting and gain viewership. Like, this is the world in which we all operate in. This is media. This is TV. But obviously that comes at a cost. And do you feel over time that that has got easier for you, or is it something that you still very much have to grapple with every day? And what does that look like to you, and how does that feel for you? Appreciate that's a big question, but I think it's an important one.
I think over time it's definitely become a lot more challenging, because I think for the average Made in Chelsea viewer, it takes them a while to warm up to someone, or for someone to kind of, how do I describe this? It's like survival of the fittest on that show.
Okay.
So you kind of, it takes time to kind of establish yourself. At the beginning, I didn't feel a difference per se, but now it's definitely something that's a lot more challenging.
So your presence has become bigger on the show, and therefore your viewership and the people that know you and comment on you has grown and grown, because you have shown up more in that way. So you've become more of a kind of main character, so to speak. So it's got a little bit more intense and difficult over time.
Definitely, for sure. But I think my way of handling it has gotten better slowly, because you just get used to it at the end of the day. And I think it is really nice that my best friends are also on the show, so we kind of navigate this,
you experience it together, and you've got that kind of support network directly around you, which is, I think, super important. I was thinking about this earlier, because I do think when you show up publicly, and I will hold my hands up to this as well, I think anyone who knows me knows that I'm a pretty strong, convicted individual in my beliefs, sense of self, what I think about things, etc., etc. But even me, I would be lying if I sat here and said it's something that I don't think about. If I think about posting something online, how it's going to be perceived, what are people going to say, am I going to be judged, what does that do about how I feel about myself, how does that affect me? And I was thinking earlier, again, what you say about kind of community. I think the thing is the same for me, is that what keeps me grounded and keeps me on a sanity track, actually, with this stuff and with the noise that surrounds us in this world, is I look at the people around me, and I look at the people around me, and I've got some really incredible people around me, and I look at them, and they are beautiful people, both inside and out. They're successful people, they're intelligent people, both academically and emotionally, and they are my friends. And I trust that I look at the people around me, and it grounds me back into the person that I am, and how I feel about myself, and hopefully how I put myself out there in the world, that even on days that I can't trust myself or look at myself in a positive light, I can look at the people around me and at least trust that they wouldn't be around me
100%.
if I didn't represent those values that I see in them. And it does look like you have some really beautiful people around you as well. And I think we have to sometimes take a step back and realise that that is a reflection of us and how we show up in the world.
I love that. Yeah, I really do love that. And I think having those people around you and close to you is so important, especially when your job is challenging at times, for sure. And also family as well. My family have been, and my friends as well, from before that. So obviously I've got my friends on the show, but even the friends that I've known since I was little, they do a really, really good job at supporting me, and also, you know, taking me back to earth when I need it, which is 100%.
And again, like you say, friends from childhood. People don't maintain long-term childhood friendships if they're not good people with good values. And it's the same for me. I still have friends that I don't speak to all the time. They're all over the world, but we're still extremely close. And again, I think it's a reflection on you clearly not a perfect person. None of us are perfect. Probably look back at some things and think, if I had a magic timeline or I had a magic ball, I would have done that slightly differently. I would have said that differently. Maybe I let myself down a bit there. But no one is perfect, and the fact that you hold on to long-term relationships in that way shows that ultimately the values that you hold and the way that you show up is generally a very respectful, positive, good way, good light in people's life. I want to kind of carry this on in terms of, so you've been on Made in Chelsea for just over 2 years. I think it's fair to say that you've said that your character in the show has grown, and I think it would probably be fair to say that the gay story is probably what grew that character and your presence on the show. You came out publicly last year, so I want to talk about that experience? And I know it is something that you've spoken about generally, but I think in the context of what we are discussing here in terms of having an online social presence and the pressure that comes with that, having to then work through very difficult feelings, I would imagine, internally, knowing you've got a light shone on you. How was the process of coming out, and how has the last year been for you?
I actually came out on the show, and before then I was deeply closeted. I don't know how obvious it was. Some people say that they could see it from the day that I stepped on Made in Chelsea, and other people were completely shocked. So
I actually haven't checked out your walk. I need to do that.
Oh no, I'm scared.
Because if you've got the gay walk, I'll know.
People definitely picked up on something, and also my love life with guys on the show, because I had storylines with guys on the show before I publicly came out, and that was just in shambles. So
okay, did you just like bro up your boyfriends?
Yeah, a few of them.
Okay.
There wasn't really much chemistry.
Like best friend vibes.
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
Siblings or dating kind of thing,
yeah.
which actually lesbians do as well. That's a whole other like kettle of fish. We do it in a slightly different way, which is weird, but yeah, okay, fine.
And then it was, I think for me, and not many people understand this still about me, is that weirdly I find talking to the cameras and filming very therapeutic. So I would say stuff in scenes that I would never ever say if the cameras weren't there. And so I came out on the show, and it genuinely helped me. It spoke it into existence, and I feel like if it wasn't for the show, I wouldn't have ever come out, I think.
Interesting.
And I still to this day choose to talk about stuff that I wouldn't have ever chosen to speak about if it wasn't for the show. And I guess that's a blessing and a curse. Depending on the situation.
Do you think that's because actually we've spoke generally so far, and I've probably come in with a slightly negative association to the media world, is that do you think you are able to show up with that level of conviction and honesty on the show outside of maybe your day-to-day life without the cameras on you? Because I'm sure as much as we sit here and say people present negative situations and opinions and sometimes spread hate and awful messages, that I'm sure you've had so many people reach out to you and say that you've had such a positive impact on them and help them in their journey in one way or another. And so do you think that actually maybe you are able to open yourself up in that way because you know that you're telling a bigger story for people actually just beyond yourself?
1000%, especially now. I think with coming out, I didn't really know what to expect, but I knew that if I did speak this into existence, I'm not only speaking to my friends, but I'm speaking to my family, I'm speaking to a wider audience who, you know, I really hoped that I could help other people as well, because I know that there's so many people that were in that position. And from the feedback and all of this, I don't really pay attention to the negative stuff, especially when it comes to coming out and becoming who I am. I know that me doing that on the show, it runs a risk of having people not like it or having people not understand it. But I think
we can laugh at those types of people though. Like people who come at you with like homophobia and things
oh
these
my
days.
goodness,
that type of stuff doesn't touch me either, because I'm just like, ultimately you're a degenerate. I've just got nothing else to say. We're just not the same. Like you're an unevolved, simple person with lack of intellectual capability, and you don't represent me. So actually I don't want you to understand me, and I don't want to understand you, because the day I understand someone like you, I'm like you, and I don't want to be like you. I think the ones that hurt a little bit more are the ones that come on a personal level of maybe who you are and picking up on things that feel maybe come with slight injustice around potentially people watching one thing and it being presented in a certain way, but maybe that isn't your whole reality, and you're having to deal with the backlash that comes with that. So how is that? Because without going, I think, too into the detail, because I don't want to become another ingredient in the pot, but I think it's important that you have a space to speak your truth on what is going on right now, and how that unfolds and feels and looks like for you.
That aspect of it is really difficult, because I obviously know what I sign up for. You know, read the contracts. You don't get control over how you are edited, But obviously I am aware that everything that I say, that I do is me, and there is no script or anything like that. But I think what I struggle with is there's not a lot of context to scenes on the show. You know, they air kind of like a 2 to 3 minute conversation that was in reality up to 3 hours. So people base their opinions off of what they think they know is the truth, which is frustrating. But also I can't complain about that because I know that's how the show operates. I know that's how it works, and it's edited in a way to create the most entertainment ever with like certain looks that I do. And I know that I've had to make a TikTok video because I do a weird look that never is received well, which like I just smirk in really awkward situations. I don't know if you're the same.
I've got an upside down smile. I don't really know how that works. I don't even know how I do it, because when I look in the mirror and try and do it, it doesn't happen. Then people are like, oh my God, you smile upside down. And I'm like,
that's impressive.
Because I can't frown anymore because of Botox.
Right.
So now it's gone to my lips.
Okay.
So yeah, I get it in a slightly different way. I understand.
So that, you know, the editors probably have a field day when they're editing a scene with me, because I make so many faces.
You're very expressive. Okay.
Yeah, inappropriate times. And that's something that I don't know if I'll ever grow out of. But yeah, it's been difficult, especially when people build such a parasocial relationship with you and they think that they know all of the facts, and they see something on the screen and they're like, that's exactly how it went. So I'm going to form my opinion on that exact moment. And of course, anyone can form their own opinion, but I think it is hard when, yes, it's a reality TV show, but there's a lot of context that unfortunately gets removed from it.
Well, there's 24 hours a day, right? In a day, and Made in Chelsea is not filming those 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It is a marginalised part of your everyday life. And as you say, whilst it is reflective of reality, it is not the whole picture. And you, I would imagine, then are dealing with situations that unfold on the show, and then also tied to your private life. You're dealing with the opinions that are formed on that, and people are potentially forming opinions about you and about your life based on very small, actually, snippets of bigger pictures. And I suppose you've come out publicly, you've had a public relationship, which people as well, I want to actually take the time to talk about this just really quickly, because people I know will be saying, you choose to put yourself out there, so expect this. And whilst I agree to a certain degree that actually, yes, we all do choose to put ourselves out there, we are operating within an industry that absolutely opens ourselves up to that. And at any point, we could all just remove ourselves, delete social media, and go and live in a cave somewhere. However, I don't think the two things can come together of, well, you put yourself out there, so I'm entitled to send you abuse. I'm entitled to not even form an opinion. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, but I'm entitled to attack you and the person that you are and pretend that I know everything about you in your life. Those two things don't come together. You should be able to show up in a show and display parts of your life, which, as we've touched upon, has actually probably been very beautiful, very healing for you, and actually very healing for the people that watch you. And I'm sure you've made a massive positive impact on people's lives. That doesn't mean that you then have to accept threats and hate and like really disgraceful comments to an absolute like barbaric level just because you're on a TV show, because that basically is victim blaming 101. It's like someone saying that someone done something inappropriate to me and the other person saying, well, why were you sat next to them? That's not the same sentiment of what we're talking about here. You came out publicly, you've had a public relationship, and then you've also had a public breakup. And I don't watch the show, and I don't watch a lot of things on social media either, and I don't see a lot of the things that go on, but I am aware that you have obviously been living in a bit of this media circus at the moment surrounding all of that. And I kind of just want to get your perspective on and your understanding and your story of how that's been and what that's looked like, and if there's anything that you kind of want to say on the last year and what that situation and that storyline has unfolded for you and kind of meant for you.
It started off so beautifully. Like I came out and I met someone. I couldn't wait to show everyone my journey so far. And I think I made the decision to bring on my partner at the time to kind of bring her into my world and bring her on the show. And it was amazing until I made the mistake of doing that, because it was something that was so pure, and our relationship played out at times on TV, relationship issues and stuff like that. And that is something that I do regret doing. I think it's normal for couples to go through turmoil and stuff, but when it was something that was so fresh to me, I was still figuring out how to handle my first gay relationship that shouldn't have been done for other people's entertainment. So I do regret doing that, but I think ultimately towards the end of my relationship we were struggling, and it wasn't perfect by any means, but because of my previous experience filming about it, I chose not to film about it anymore. I was like, I'm gonna tackle this behind closed doors. I'm gonna try and figure out what was going on without letting anyone know, production wise, and without filming about it. And so ultimately my relationship ended. I think there is a slight bit where we were filming and I just broke down, because I was like, I need to figure out who I am,
completely overwhelmed,
what I'm doing completely. And I was shoved in this scene where I think they knew that I was struggling behind closed doors with my relationship, and I refused to film much about it. There was a lot going on behind the scenes.
Sometimes as well it's so difficult, because saying nothing is saying everything, right? And this is the hard thing. It's like, I'm a deep believer in things in life are always going to go the way that they're going to go. So irrespective if you had brought your partner onto the show or hadn't, sadly it probably would have ended, because if two people aren't going to work together or don't work together, I do believe external circumstances can absolutely have an impact and don't help. But either people are meant for each other or they're not. And actually they can be meant for each other for a certain period of time and then not be meant for each other anymore. Doesn't mean it was always wrong. It just means that you grow, and sometimes you grow with someone and sometimes you grow apart. And I think we in life put such a really intense perception on everything having to work forever and last forever in order for it to be a success. And that's such a terrible way to look at things, because I'm sure that relationship, although sadly ended, taught you a lot, helped you grow into the person that you are, made you think about the things you do want in the next person that you meet, and also maybe the things that you don't want. Doesn't mean that that person is bad or wrong, or that you are bad or wrong. It was just a moment in time that no longer fit you anymore. I agree though. I think it's a difficult balance, because as I opened up with that response there, not saying anything is saying everything, because if you hide it or keep it entirely private, people will comment and say, you're hiding it for a reason, something must be wrong, it must be toxic, why aren't you coming out and being public if you had nothing to hide, etc, etc, etc. You come out and you speak openly about things that literally every single person in their life will go through. We all argue with people, we all have disagreements with people, we all rub each other up the wrong way, we all sometimes shout, we react. And yet, because you're doing it publicly, people then comment as if they've never done this themselves, and then are so quick to be like, there's something wrong with you. And it's like, oh, so you've literally never had a relationship, you've never had an argument with someone, a disagreement, but because you're in a public space, it's so heightened.
I get put on this pedestal a lot, and I think for me in my head, I'm like, if anyone had a camera in front of them documenting their lives,
respectfully,
their
I would
mistakes,
never do it. Like, fair play to you, because I show up in this way, but I know I control the narrative, and not because I need to control the narrative because I'm scared of the outcome. But I do understand that it is a reality show, and at the end of the day, they're going to do things that make it a success, and that's completely fair enough, and that is what you signed up for. But it's not always helpful.
No, definitely not always helpful, for sure. And I think after that whole breakup, we had a break from filming, and it was like over the Christmas period, and so we had a good 6 weeks in between. And that was when, you know, I was dealing with a lot, processing a lot, going through a whole breakup, trying to figure out what the last year of my life was, and then go back to filming with a fresh start. And there was a lot that went on behind closed doors that I chose not to speak about out of respect for certain people and whatever. But yeah, then I guess people draw their own conclusions based off of what goes on after, which is fair enough, but there is no truth behind any kind of like overlap or anything like that.
And I think that's important, what you just said there as well, is that you've chosen to respect certain elements of what went on at that time in order to respect the people involved, and also not feed into it as well, because you do have to bring yourself up on a higher level, because sometimes reacting is just feeding the beast, right? But the hit that you take with that is then having to allow some narratives that are false to run concurrently with what you know is the truth. But I think the one liberating thing that you can take from that is that just because other people do things, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And as we said kind of at the beginning of this conversation, you know what went on. You know what you experienced. You know what went on. You know how you dealt with it, maybe good, bad, indifferent, you know. And you have to wake up with that, and you know the person that you are. And again, the people around you that were involved that are close to you and know who you are, they also know that. And so beyond that, we paralyze ourselves thinking about, and I do it, I paralyze and punish myself all the time thinking about stupid things, sometimes even from 10 years ago, that I still will be like, I wish I never done that. Why did I say that? But it's also just such a non-conducive way of thinking, because at the end of the day, it's done. And I'm sure mistakes were made along the line, not even in the last year, beforehand. It's a part of life. None of us are perfect, but being able to, like for me as well, I know that whilst I've never would claim to be perfect, and there's definitely things that I would look back on and do very, very differently, I can stay very, very strong in the fact of knowing I have never woken up or gone out of my way in this world to cause harm to another person. And that doesn't mean that I haven't caused harm to other people. Absolutely, it happens. But I know I've never walked through this life and done something knowing that it will negatively impact another person and taken any form of enjoyment out of it, or actually tried to build on it for my own personal gain. And I'm sure you could probably think the same about yourself.
Completely, definitely. And I feel like there was, obviously I'm still very much trying to figure out this world that I'm living in, and dealing with.
Is that the gay world or the media world, or both?
Both.
Yeah.
But gay world, essentially.
Well, gay world, you're reborn, right? You like, I know that you'll probably hate this saying, but we call it baby gay for a reason, because
I'm constantly called a baby gay.
It doesn't help as well that you're like 5'2", which like feeds into that like baby narrative. But it's true, because it's like, okay, let's turn it on the other like on the other side. It's like me waking up tomorrow and realise that I fancied a man. First of all, I'd want to die.
God forbid.
Yeah, please, just like, no. I've been gay for basically as long as I've been in romantic relationships. And so I only know that. I only know being a lesbian. I only know my queerness. I would have to learn what the dynamic of being in a heterosexual relationship would be. And I am sure that to straight couples and a partner, I would probably be acting in a very nuanced way of what the norm looks like there. And you've got that on the flip side. And alongside that, this community is formed on community. Like, there is so much strength in this community because we've had to have so much strength. And so there is so much nuance built into that, and like microaggressions and micro sayings and labels, and because it all ties into a sense of community, but then also trying to navigate that and work out who you are must be hell.
Yes, it has been hell, definitely. I would say, especially the last 3 to 4 months, because I think for me, I still haven't mastered the whole blurry line friendship situation.
Okay.
And I've never really gone through a situation like that up until recently with
Again, it's just part of like, there's a set of boxes that you've got to tick to be in the club, and you're ticking them.
yeah.
And that's how you've got to look at it. Sorry, it's not funny because it's hell. I've spoken about it before. I was in love with my best friend for 4 years.
Really?
Yeah. When I was, we're friends now, which is again classic.
Really?
It was love. I was a baby. I was actually a baby. I was 14 to 18. So it was very much infatuation, puppy love, the discovery of who I was alongside being in love with this person or infatuated with this person. It's difficult. It's really difficult when the lines get blurred, because if the feelings are not reciprocated, or rather what I find often is that it's not the feelings aren't reciprocated. Some people can't meet you where you're at, and they'll tell whatever story needs to be told to both themselves and you in order to not meet you there. And the hardship of that is knowing that irrespective of you, whether you think it's right, wrong, could be love forever, or you just wanted to explore it, you have to leave people where they're at.
I agree.
And it's not easy.
No.
No.
Definitely not easy. But I think also to caveat of that, it's like how I don't think a lot of people really understand it if they haven't experienced it, or if they're not part of this world that we're in. And I don't really expect anyone to understand it, but I made the choice to, again, because I'm a weirdo, I find it very therapeutic speaking it into existence on the show, and it is my therapy, speaking to my friends. And
you
I
should
know
have to pay through a therapist.
Sorry, yeah, exactly. Well,
you're going to have your salary cut for Made in Chelsea, because they're going to be like, actually, we're giving you a service here, so
literally.
we're taking 20% off.
I know.
They should have a therapist on set for you, I think, to kind of come in.
They have now.
Right, they've learned a big lesson from you over the last 6 months.
Yeah, they do. They've got a psych now, and
HR.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. So I think currently what I said about navigating female friendships in a very queer environment, it's been challenging, and it's been covered on the show. And I think the reception, I don't think a lot of people understand it, because there's, again,
the gays will understand it, but I would imagine the Made in Chelsea audience is predominantly straight people.
Yes.
And they're not going to understand it.
No, they don't, and they've formed their pretty strong opinions on that situation anyway, which is fine. And I think it didn't help that this situation that I was in, there was a boy involved, a very charming man who was also, it was like this weird, it's still ongoing, so
little
I don't know
triangle.
Weird little triangle. And obviously,
of course, there's always a man to come in and fuck it up as well.
No, that's why I initially
decided
decided
to just leave us alone. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, yeah.
That's why I initially spoke about it, because we were navigating this rare bond, or whatever it was. We were figuring it out, and then this guy kind of came on the scene. And so unfortunately I can't shut up about how I feel, and if I don't say anything, you'll see it on my face. So I think, and then again, I kind of utilize the cameras as a way to get my feelings across. But the audience, they don't really understand where I was coming from with this. But then again, I've had so many messages from people in the queer world being like, I'm going through the exact same thing with a friend. Like, thank you so much, because I can really resonate. And those are the comments that I care about.
Exactly. And that's what matters, is that you're never going to get 100% agreement from everyone ever. And if you did, you'd be dead, because you'd be trying to fight and prove a point to people. You'd just be generally exhausted. We are all different. We all have different experiences and ways that we walk through the world, and we're going to disagree on things. When you are out there publicly to a predominantly straight audience, they are going to favour heteronormative storylines, and they will make you the villain, not because it's about you. People will always choose the familiar of what reflects them. They understand this third party coming in and them having, I honestly don't know what's going on, but this is me making an assumption, them blossoming into a beautiful romantic relationship, because they can see themselves reflected in that. if they can't understand you and your experience in queerness because they're not queer, and they also don't want to, people decide to just not educate themselves as well, and it is a decision to be a bigoted asshole. It's a decision that people make. I'm sorry, I just don't care where you're from, what your religion is. You can choose to not be that person. It will always make you look like that person that you're not, because people can't sometimes raise their head above water, touch some grass, and understand that it's a lot more than just straight down the line, black and white. But as you say, this community, and this is where I hate when people say, oh, gayness is just the same as being straight. We want to be accepted the same as straight people are, but we aren't the same, and that's okay. Our relationships actually aren't the same, and I don't think how queer people walk through their life, generally is the same in any way, shape or form. That's okay. But yeah, when you're on a show and it's predominantly straight audience and storylines like that are going to come up, I don't think you'll ever be in favour.
No.
And I think that's something that you're going to have to get used to pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But like you've said there, still worth it, because look at how many people have reached out and can relate to you, and you've had a positive impact, and I'm sure probably will now help many people navigate the same situation. And it's the same for me with this podcast. Like, there's days that I battle with myself on it nearly every single day. And it's always nice because on really hard days, I will get messages from people being like, I've listened to this episode today, and it might be an episode from a year ago that I've forgotten about. And it sounds extreme, but I do understand where these people are coming from, saying it's generally changed my life, or I've never felt so seen. I've never heard someone say it in that way. That's what keeps me going, and that's kind of what feeds me. And I think the same for you. Like, you should keep showing up, being the person that you are, not wholly accepted, being attacked, and actually just have that part of your journey, because for the 10% margin of people behaving like that, you're going to get 19% of people being amazing and finding your presence very, very valuable.
Completely. And I think now when I look at comments and people are forming their opinion based off of that, being like, oh, jazz this, jazz that, in comparison to the people that messaged me being like, thank you so much for doing that, it's really helped me. So I can definitely grasp a big difference on people having an opinion on me based off of, you know, they're not liking my character in this storyline, and that they don't want me to ruin whatever's going on. And then versus the people who messaged me being like, you have severely helped me get through this, thank you so much. Like, you know, it's worth it in my opinion.
And it's a completely different weight of reaction as well. You're
exactly.
weighting someone's pathetic, immature backlash comment because they're not healed in a way, and they're literally sending you a 2-minute, a 30-second message. They're not thinking about you after, because they're off to troll some other poor fucker. You're one in a million. If these people are these type of people, don't understand it, never gone online in my life and commented anything bad ever, don't understand it, think you're strange, don't want to relate to you, go to therapy. Your karma is the person that you have to look at in the mirror every single day. Good luck to you. That weight is nowhere near the same as someone saying, you've had such a positive impact on my life. So even if 10 people are saying shit things and one person saying an amazing thing, the weight of that one person is so much more than these people.
Yeah, completely. And that's why I will continue to represent. I think it has been very, very difficult being in that environment, being a gay woman, for sure. But as challenging as it is, and at times it feels very alone on set, talking about certain things, especially as the series goes on, it gets more intense, for sure.
And it's certain things that you're experiencing for the first time as well.
Yeah.
Like, if I think back on my first coming out years, and that was filmed, not because I necessarily done anything horrific, but like, you don't have something to pin yourself against, so you're having to do it for the first time. Like, you're literally wading in complete darkness and exposing yourself publicly, which is terrifying. But I think you need to take a moment that you are actually doing something, and I'm just sat here thinking this now, that hasn't really been done before. And if it has, it's usually gay men. And it's different. And I say this a lot to people. Being a gay woman and being a gay man is very different, because gay men are still men. They still have the benefits of walking through the world as a man. Doesn't mean that sometimes the hate that they get is not absolutely horrific and actually in some ways a lot more physically damaging, aggressive as such. When you're a gay woman, you have to deal with the fact that you're a woman and you're never understood and you're always belittled and you're called stupid and all the things that come with being a woman. And then you have gayness layered on top. And it's a whole other kettle of fish. And you're probably one of the first people to be doing this in a public reality TV setting. So think, like, people need to cut you some slack. And you probably, if you're anything like me, would need to cut yourself some slack as well. Because you've got no Bible to go off of.
No,
you are the Bible.
Yeah.
Other than this podcast, and don't go off this Bible either. This is a bad Bible.
Yeah, no, it's been rough. But do you know what I hate? I don't know if you've had a similar experience, but I've got this best friend called Jules, and she is in a straight relationship. She's literally going to marry the guy. We are like very, very close. And people tend to say, well, Jazz is like that with her friend. So like, that's just the way Jazz is, or that's just the way that person is. Comparing my friendships with people that I am genuinely just friends with no confusion and there's no blurry lines and whatever. So I think, again, this is from people who obviously can't resonate and don't really understand. But I think that's something that is extremely challenging when they kind of undermine this weird situation that I'm in because they see me with other people and they're like, that's just how Jazz is. Yeah. I don't know if that's a common thing.
No, I 100% get what you're saying. And it comes from, sadly, toxic societal norms that have been instilled in society historically, which is one of two things where lesbians are concerned, is that you fancy all your mates, which is weird. Or if you don't fancy them, like what you're saying about Jules, is that, well, then if you're displaying so much affection, they basically don't want to accept lesbianism. That's what that's, it's homophobia just with a different lens, because what that narrative is saying is that you can't accept that I can have a deep, emotional, loving friendship platonically with someone and also have a completely different emotional relationship with someone else because I couldn't be diverse in my feelings because they see it as black or white. It's either you're all with each other or it's all fake.
Yeah.
And that, again, is just rooted in the societal way in which queerness and also lesbianism is just displayed. And it's like one of the many battles that we have to fight. It's like, this is a really awful thing to say, and I don't actually find it funny in a lot of ways, but it is a quick way to shut people down, because I don't like coming after people's appearances ever, but it's a good joke and I do like it, which is when people, like women in bars, have like tried to say previously that like lesbians would like, you tell them you're gay and then they think that you want to sleep with them, and it's like, I might be gay but you're still ugly. Yeah. Like, and they might not be ugly, and even if they are, it shouldn't matter. But what I'm saying is like, so you, every man you meet you want to sleep with? Yeah. Literally. Or you can't have a male best friend and have a boyfriend. They can't seem to apply those rules to us because they see us as so different, because the world has made us so different. And yeah, very frustrating. But again, this is where community is so important in this world. And I don't understand like Republican lesbians, sorry to bring politics into it, because like they're not your friends in that way. Like how can you hate on a community is kind of your savior? You can have straight friends and heterosexual people around you, and they can love and support you and give you everything, as I'm sure Jules does. I've seen a snippet of that friendship and it looks beautiful. But at the end of the day, there's going to be some things that she can't advise you on because she's never going to experience. And that's not on her. She can help, but to a certain degree. If you've not lived it, you don't know. And this is where like community is so important. And I hope that you, through this, like I'm sure you will build community. You will build people around you that will give you that and hopefully liberate you in that way.
Honestly, it wasn't up until recently that I kind of embraced, like, genuinely, I mean, last year I really wanted that sense of community and I didn't have that. I didn't get the opportunity to have that important sense of community within.
Well, you came out and met someone and bunkered down, which again, it's a classic. Like, we've all been there. Don't worry.
But
You're
I
actually
think-
just making yourself like valid in being very gay.
Mhm.
Do you know what? Because you're not leaving anything up for
Yeah.
assumption. You're ticking all the boxes. Great.
Yeah. But I think recently I have definitely found that sense of community and made more friends. And it honestly is so incredible to have. And I wish that I stood strong on that more last year and really trying to find those queer connections, because with everything that I experienced with filming and what was going on there, I genuinely had, I don't know if I can shout her out, Anna
Stordie.
Yeah.
Anna's been on the podcast. Shout out to Anna.
Oh, she's been incredible.
Anna needs to quit her job and become a therapist.
Oh my gosh,
respectfully.
She does. Throughout that whole experience, obviously no one on the show could really resonate with what I was going through and how to deal with it. But Anna honestly was the best individual ever, and she was so helpful, and she really validated how I was feeling, which if I didn't have that after it airing now and having the response being that, like, if I didn't have Anna and in that, I would have been screwed.
Yeah,
completely.
it is so important to have people who really do understand, because it makes you feel seen and understood and not crazy, actually.
Yeah.
As well. And I don't think that we can speak enough to people, like, when we're going through things. You have to talk to people about it, because otherwise you drive yourself insane.
Oh,
if you're anything like me, you just go on the same loop.
Yes.
The same loop. And it's real hell. I actually want to talk just quickly then about the public element of, again, relationships. And you've obviously experienced something publicly, which I'm no doubt came with its good and bad. Has that left you a bit scarred? Because lesbian relationships are scarring generally.
Yeah.
Then you've got the public element of, as we've just spoken about there, generally heterosexual audience, etc., all of that. And then we're sadly living in a world full of people who don't really understand why. And again, it's going to sound ironic because I sit here on a podcast that I literally own and put myself out there publicly, are desperate for fame and attention.
Yeah.
And is that something that is playing on your mind in terms of living publicly and having maybe people that will potentially exploit that?
As in with dating, sorry?
Yes. Is that something you consider now? Because you've had a public relationship, comes with its good and bad. I'm not speaking about that. You would get that anyway. But obviously a lot of people like when people have public profiles.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, because I actually really don't like this word in so many ways. Like, me at an influencer event is like a kid on a first day of school. Like, I just can't do it. I sit there on my own. If someone comes and speaks to me, it's not my bag. I'd rather go into Westminster, to be honest, and just fight with a politician. Like, that's where I get my crack. But I understand the world and what you have to navigate in. And what I'm saying is, it's not something I ever understood, but I know people do it. And I'm quite naive to it sometimes, because I don't behave in that way. Is that something you're experiencing? Because the lesbian community loves a bit of clout as well. They love it.
Yeah, I definitely would say I'm selective anyway.
Okay.
But I don't think that I could do the whole public relationship thing again. But maybe it's just because I'm scarred at the moment because of everything that happened afterwards and all of that. But in terms of dating, I think right now I'm a bit terrified to date, to be honest. So I haven't really given it much thought, but I definitely wouldn't date someone. I haven't actually thought about it. I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious for me anyway that I can read through people pretty well. Good. So I kind of know people's intentions or if they're genuine. Pick up on the energy. For sure. I'm a big energy person.
Yeah, me too.
So I think I'd be able to know pretty quickly what people's intentions are.
Yeah. Okay.
But I definitely wouldn't
go out there as much as you did.
Yeah. Like my whole, I
think
sure.
it's interesting what you say there, as I wouldn't do that again. And I actually think, again, you're probably doing yourself a bit of disservice, because ultimately this is your life. You live publicly, and until you step away from Made in Chelsea, if ever, or cut yourself off, this is the reality that you're dealing with, and this is the reality that you're going to deal with for the foreseeable future. And you still need to be able to have a balance of living your life freely and openly, and celebrating and showing the person that you are with, maybe just managed with how often, in what way, and how much.
Yes.
And again, learning curve. We can all look back and think, oh shit, if I knew, I wouldn't have done that. Doesn't mean it's wrong, just didn't suit you, and you've worked that out now. With the next relationship, when that happens, healing journey and all of that, took me a while. Brilliant though. Best thing you'll ever do is to sit on your own and really look at yourself and work out what you want going forward, from realising what you don't want from your past.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say to yourself, I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to not hide, but that I'm going to have to go completely the opposite direction to avoid what's happened in the past. I think everything's about striking a balance, and you should be able to celebrate the person you're with and openly show love and celebrate that in a public way. Just maybe giving yourself ultimate access, not 24 hours a day, but to what people perceive as ultimate access is just not for you, and that's fine.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
It's just something in between, and that's absolutely fine. And I'm sure that when you meet someone and you select that person, you'll know that they're right by the type of conversation you have with them surrounding exactly this. And they're either going to meet you where you're at and understand and be on the same page, or they're not. And actually, it's a really good way of dissecting if someone's right for you or not.
Yeah.
Because if they come at it with, no, I want to be out there, I want to do this, I want to do that, you're not for me. If they say, I don't want you to speak about me ever and keep me a secret, also not going to work for you, because your life is public. So it's about meeting someone who can meet you where you're at. You treat them with respect, they treat you with respect, and you kind of manage it in that way. And it's not to say that issues won't come up. They will. When people see people happy, they want to tear them down. Yeah. But it's how you are with someone that responds to that, I think, is the most important thing.
I agree. Well, I don't think I'll be...
I'm coming for Anna Stordy's title.
Yeah, honestly. I'm joking. This has been like a therapy session. Okay,
Made in Chelsea. I'm currently... I've just left my job. So, but I think it is important, because everything's happening for the first time in a public setting. And so you've got to work through all of these things constantly. Yeah. But I think you are clearly doing amazingly. As I say, I don't follow these things, but from what I've seen, I think you show up incredibly well. You show up with strength. You show up with integrity. You show up as the person that you are. Doesn't mean that I'm sure you're always a perfect person. Absolutely not. But you show up with truth, and you show up with genuinity. And that's actually more than what a lot of people can say in this life. So I think keep that and ride that, and just remember, you know who you are, and the people that you care about know who you are. I just got really weird deja vu, and I don't know why.
What, here?
Yeah, saying that to you. Maybe I'm going to be saying the same thing to you next year.
Yeah. Yeah, literally.
You leave here and just go and do the same thing over.
But thank you. Honestly, I really, really appreciate that. I think you are a very wise lady. You are.
Depends who you ask.
Liv?
I always say she's wise.
So wise.
Oh, to be fair, Liv does say it, but then I also partially pay Liv. So, like, do you know what I mean? Not probably the best. Go and ask a few of my other friends. Ask Nat, yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and speaking today, because I do think that whilst most people watching this or listening to this won't be in the situations within the public lens that we've spoken about at length, I think it's actually useful to give that insight to people and allow them to look at it through your lens. However, I also think the topics that we've discussed today, like you say, the coming out, the first relationship, the first breakup, that's a whole other different episode, maybe actually for another time, because the feelings and emotions, the friendship, falling in love, is again all topics that Lesbian Supper Club have touched upon before and discussed actually in great detail. And it helps people to not feel alone. And ultimately, that's what this podcast is about. It's a community podcast. The events are a community space for people to have conversations such as these. So I really thank you and appreciate you for coming on and showing that vulnerability, particularly whilst the whirlwind is happening, because I know that's not easy either. I would usually wait 2 months for it to end and I can gain perspective before I come and talk on it. So I really respect the fact that you've stepped into this today whilst it's happening and held yourself the way that you have. And I hope been able to put across your perspective and your truth per se. I do also just want to finish off by, off the back of that, I speak on this podcast a lot about mental health, predominantly since I went through my own, probably actually I say my journey started when I was pretty much 10 in mental health, which I think a lot of people could probably resonate with, but definitely was very enlightened to me over recent years. And it's something that, again, I've chosen to take all of the lessons and all of the absolute suffering from that and bring it to this podcast to try and help other people. And I do just want to take a moment to highlight overall the discussion that we've been having today, that whilst, yes, people show up publicly and decide to display parts of their life publicly, please can we all just remember that we are actually all just humans with feelings and with family and with friends and lives that we all just want to live and live in peace and have happiness the same as everyone else. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to make mistakes that people are allowed to give constructive criticism on, and it doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect a lot of the time. But I do think if you are listening to this podcast as someone who does or has gone online publicly and been vicious to another person or spread hate, lies, manipulation, please do remember that whilst we show up as strong because it is our job and we have to have a level of decorum when it comes to this and almost make it unemotive in a lot of ways, we are also people that have to lay our heads down on the pillows at night with the thoughts that exist. And I don't want to sit here and say that it doesn't affect us, because I know that people like to say that narrative of, I just ignore it, it doesn't affect me. I don't want to give these people the insight because then they do it more. I think that's a lie. I think that we actually, it does play over in our minds and it does affect us. We can definitely grow resilience to it, and we do. And you're not controlling our lives every day, but it does have an impact. And I just think if you are someone doing that, please do take a good look at yourself in the mirror and question why you're doing that and why you feel the need to do that. And I think we'd all be a lot happier if we decided to turn that into nice conversations and building ourselves up rather than taking energy to tear other people down. And that's how I want to wrap up today's episode of Lesbian Supper Club podcast. Thank you, Jazz, again so much for coming on.
Thank you.
We're very happy to have you in the community. I, in a selfish perspective, off the mics, like the stories that you can bring with a glass of wine. So that's great. Thank you. And yeah, I think you're going to go on to no doubt continue to have amazing experiences, both online, offline, in the media. And I can't wait to kind of watch this journey evolve and grow for you and see where everything goes this year, next year and beyond.
Oh, thank you, Scarlett. That's so kind.
And thank you everyone for tuning in to today's episode of the Lesbian Supper Club podcast. Please make sure to follow us on socials. We're going to be in the Spotify studios going forward now. It's going to be visual. It's going to be better. We've got so many exciting things coming up, and I can't wait to continue to have more conversations such as these. So thank you again, everyone, for listening. We love you and we love this community. Goodbye, everyone. Mwah.